Matt Walsh has called for a boycott of Target, saying what Target is doing is far worse than anything Bud Light did. They are selling chest binders and tuck-friendly bathing suits for children. We did it with Bud Light. Now it's Target's turn. Newsweek says Target's LGBTQ plus pride range sparks boycott calls after Bud Light controversy. Now, Matt Walsh accurately points out, boycotting Target ain't gonna be easy. Bud Light's easy. You go to the store, buy a different beer. It worked. Target, for many people, it's the only store in their area, and it's a one-stop shop for many important goods. But the story of what's going on with their LGBTQ pride range, as it's called, is not just that they had a section one time for Pride Month, as they call it, but it's that generally they have a ton of queer propaganda all throughout their stores. Numerous videos are popping up of individuals asking these questions. One that's been going around shows a woman ask where the straight section is. Now, of course, the left will argue that every section is a straight section and there's only one small pride section. Of course, that's a lie and a manipulation. Because when you go into the cookware section, there's no pictures of adult men and women being married and having kids or anything like that. It's just a bland section with pots and pans. Yet you go into one particular area, and what do they have? Ideological symbolism and advocacy. So yes, there are questions about when Target will start in reinforcing the ideology of traditional families and marriage, which they don't do. They don't do. The argument from the left is that all things are default, but that's not the case. Not every single thing all the time, a bottle of Coke or laundry detergent is in any way, none of these things are in any way promoting traditional lifestyles. Except when you look at the Pride Month products, they overtly espouse advocacy for sexual identity and sexual behaviors, which is why people are calling for a boycott. Newsweek says, recently released range of clothing by Target for Pride Month, which takes place every June. Sure. They just said it one day and then everyone started acting like it was the case. Pride Month. What does that even mean? Why do we have a month dedicated to pride? You see, they're not talking about pride. This is the interesting thing. I've questioned this idea. Pride as a word. Pride, proud. Why? If they called it LGBTQ Rights Month, I'd say, okay. Or LGBT History Month, I'd say, I get that because they try and dedicate a span of time to some kind of idea or information. Pride, however, that word, that choice of words, I find interesting, as it is, of course, one of the 7 deadly sins. They say many people calling for the retailer to receive the Bud Light treatment. The beer brand, we understand, moving on. Several brands have been the target of condemnation from conservatives over marketing advocating for the LGBTQ plus community, while experts have said such campaigns provide an opportunity for brands to appeal to consumers in new markets. Critics have accused the companies of alienating their traditional customer base. More importantly, I think the issue here is the targeting of children. So while I can show you this video of a woman saying, where's the straight section, and you get the idea, or a video of a man walking around saying, look at what the products they have for children are. One of them is tucking bathing suits for boys, which is strange. This one I thought was particularly interesting. Take a look at this video.
Hey, what's up, guys? Here I am in Target, my local Target, right? Check this out. So we're in the boys section, guys. Boys clothes section. I want to show you over here. This is the clothing you have for boys. Dinosaurs are cool, right? There's a big rainbow behind the dinosaurs. But we're not going to stop there. We got a cloud, hula hooping with a rainbow. What's this? Trucks are cool, right? Picking up a rainbow. Why are we picking up a rainbow, guys? Why is this boys clothing today? I'm not done. Like Baby Shark? Bye-bye. There's masculinity. That's what they're doing. They're destroying masculinity. Guys, it's time to stand up against this wokeness.
So here we have a guy wearing a shirt that said God made with a picture of a man and a woman, taking issue with the fact that all of these pieces of clothing have rainbows on them. What does a rainbow mean? Well, it was God's covenant that he would he would not flood the earth after Noah. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but that's what Seamus says. So I say, okay, take it back. However, what we know now is the rainbow is the general symbol for LGBTQ ideology, for gender and sex ideology, leftist, critical gender ideology. So what they'll try and do, because they're groomers and they're manipulators, is argue, it's rainbow. Why are you freaking out? Well, as you can see with this one video, it's not just about the fact they're putting rainbows on clothing. It's that they've dedicated whole sections to this. And here we go. Point of view, you take your kid to Target. In Target, Matt Walsh points out, they have bathing suits for tucking. They also have a bunch of rainbows, queer all year calendar. You have a shirt saying queer, queer, queer. Why? Why are they selling these products? The argument, of course, is that it's capitalist. They're trying to appeal to a market, but hold on there. That market's very small. Queer people, that's single low percentage of the population. So what are they really targeting? It's the ideology. It's leftist ideology. Now, ultimately, I don't believe a boycott of Target will be effective. In fact, I think it will be, I think it will backfire if conservatives do try, because it won't go anywhere. Bud Light was easy in that you understand. Now, that being said, you can choose not to shop at Target and go somewhere else if you can. And that could have an impact, but I don't know if it moves the needle for large department stores. I think the big picture here is just talking about these issues and bringing up these videos, I think, is a good first step to point out that it's not just they have rainbows. You might see that as silly, but it's about the whole picture of what they're doing in places all across the country. I don't care if someone's gay. I don't care if they're LGBTQ. Really don't. You can do whatever you want. My question is, why are you trying to put this around children so much? Now, I put a joke up on Twitter, and I said that only when Moloch is satiated will our culture course correct. But here's my view. The left is indoctrinating their children into a lifestyle that results in no reproduction or limited reproduction. They're advocating for abortion, which terminates the life of children. And they're advocating for sterilizing children. Whether intentionally or not, the left takes a strong view which results in less children. So I shrug. A lot of conservatives are like, I'm not going to let them do this to these kids. And I'm like, oh, no, I get it. You know what I mean? I totally get it. But my view is kind of like in 20 to 40 years, they don't exist anymore. And that's probably why they don't try arguing with me when I point that out. They don't try arguing with me when I say things like they're sterilizing their children. They just ignore it. Do you think these leftists want to come out and admit that they are taking away the ability to reproduce of these children, or inhibiting it, or taking their lives? They don't. We had Lance from the Surfs. He was a leftist, came on the show, and I said, I believe there is a trans genocide, and I believe it is being carried out by liberals and the left, because they are advocating for medications and surgeries which will sterilize people suffering from gender dysphoria, thus eliminating whatever these genes are from our future gene pools. That sounds like genocide. That sounds explicitly like some kind of genocide. So I have to wonder about all of this. And I suppose the line between conspiracy is simply whether or not they intend for it to happen. I don't know what their intentions are. I can tell you this. If you're going to indoctrinate children into gender ideology, you're going to confuse children, you're going to sterilize or abort children, in the future, there's just going to be a lot less of these kids. They're less likely to reproduce themselves. They will carry on those ideas for their children, and eventually there won't be any of these people. The right then says, yeah, but they're coming for your kids. Yeah, we know. So be a good parent and keep them away from your kids. But maybe the end result is just this. Those that are not smart enough to see what's going on will walk blindly into it, and they won't care. They'll say, why do you care so much? Okay. All right. I'll entertain that question. Conservatives, why do you care so much? Why do you care so much that liberals are sterilizing their kids? In 20 to 40 years, there'll be no liberal voters. Why do you care so much that they're aborting their kids? They're eliminating themselves from the gene pool. Why do you care so much? Now I know the real answer, because conservatives don't want people to be harmed. They want people to live better, happier, healthier lives. But the left doesn't care. Short-term gains, long-term losses. You know, conservatives tend to be more about the long-term gains with short-term investment. And that's why, no matter what you do, I think nature is taking the reins on this one. Whether or not you target boycotts entirely, whether or not you boycott Target, you boycott Target is entirely up to you. As for what's happening in this country, as horrified as you may be, no matter what you do, eventually this problem won't exist anymore. Either because the people have sterilized themselves and then they age out, they get older and they don't reproduce, or because your activism puts an illegal end to it. The end result can only be one thing. This ideology can't persist. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes. Stick around and I'll see you all shortly.